In this video, I want to cover the verses within Chapter 1 of Shinran's Kyo Gyo Shin Sho that represent his own words and his description of on the topic of the true teaching. And in that chapter, he says, "As I reverently contemplate the true teaching of Pure Land Buddhism, there are two kinds of merit transference. One is the phase of going, and the other is the phase of returning." So the phase of going represents attaining birth in his pure land of bliss. And we do that on the basis of his merit transference to us. That is the power that allows us to be reborn. But not very often emphasized is the fact that within Shinran's system there's also a phase of returning. That when we're born in the Pure Land and become a Buddha immediately upon our death, we then can return to this world in various forms to consummate the compassion that we're not able to perfectly fulfill in the context of our current life, in our current body, and our current circumstances. So he says, with regard to the merit transference in the phase of going, there are the true teaching, practice, faith, and enlightenment. And these are the terms that are embedded in the actual title of the Kyo Gyo Shin Sho, namely, true teaching, practice, faith, and enlightenment. So in Shin Buddhism, we avail ourselves of Amida's merit. Why? Because we're not able to attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi on the basis of our own effort. We can try, we can put forward effort, but at the end of the day, we can't become perfect is what it boils down to. So this first verse kind of discloses the whole system of Shin Buddhism from Shinran's perspective in terms of these two phases of merit transference. The transference to go to the other shore and the transference to return. And here we might recall the epitaph of the Buddha, the title of the Buddha, so often in the sutras where he's referred to as the Tathagata, the one who has thus gone and the one who has thus come. So the Buddha himself goes to the other shore and then returns to manifest himself in human form to provide the teachings of the Dharma that we know about via the historical Buddha as well as those great Mahayana teachers that have outlined the Great Vehicle Path. So in the second verse of that first chapter, Shinran says, "Now, if I am to reveal the true teaching, it is the larger sutra on the Buddha of infinite life." That Buddha being, of course, Amida Buddha, or Amitayu's Buddha, in the Western paradise, in his Pure Land. And the larger sutra, of course, is one of the three Sukhavati, or Pure Land Sutras. And it is the one that contains Dharmakara's 48 vows, the 18th of which is the key one that we look to for our salvation. So the outline of this sutra, Shinran says, is as follows, that Amida Buddha raised the unsurpassed vow, again, which vow? The 18th vow, and opened wide the Dharma store, the merit and virtue of the Dharma, and pitying ordinary inferior men, namely he pitied us human beings, as we struggle with dukkha day in and day out. And as he pitied us, he selected the treasure of virtues and bestowed it upon them. The treasure of virtues being Amida's name, the Nembutsu, Namu Amida Butsu. It all is considered to be contained in the name, which also is the sort of object of devotion, if you will. Not that we worship, a piece of paper or calligraphy or whatever, but the point being that it represents the essence of the Buddha's merit transference to us. Shinran goes on to say that Sakyamuni Buddha appeared in this world and showed the teaching of the way. And here he's referring probably to the path of sages, actually, which would be the difficult path. And Nagarjuna, the first patriarch of Shin Buddhism, and frankly the patriarch of many schools within Buddhism, he was the one, I believe, that first talked about the differentiation between the difficult path and the easy path. So he appeared in the world, showed the teachings of the way, desiring particularly to save multitudes by endowing them with the true benefit. And there he's referring to Amida's merit and virtue, which is again embodied in his name. For this reason, Sakyamuni Buddha expounded the Tathagata's original vow, and that's the import of the sutra, and the Buddha's name is the essence of the sutra. That's Shinran's take on the larger Sukhavati Sutra. So he's showing that the larger sutra presents the true teaching for our salvation. And in this verse, Shinran presents the larger sutra as the true teaching. And in this verse, Shinran gives the sutra's gist and essence. Now, the rest of the chapter up until the last verse is where he pulls out various excerpts from various teachers to make this point. But in the last verse, he again speaks his own words, his concluding words in praise of the true teaching when he says, "Accordingly then, this is the clear evidence," all these passages that he has previously presented, "evidence that the larger sutra reveals the true teaching. Indeed, it is the true exposition for which the Tathagata appeared in the world." And here we'll remember very vividly chapter 2 of the Lotus Sutra, where the whole question is, why does the Buddha appear in the world? Why does the Tathagata appear in his why does the Tathagata appear in his Nirmanakaya form to preach the Dharma to sentient beings? And according to Shinran, it's this exposition, it's this teaching of Dharmakara, his vow, the name, is the reason the Buddha came into the world. And you may be able to extrapolate this to all the Mahayana teachings, all the wonderful, profound, compassionate, altruistic teachings of the Bodhisattva way when he describes it as the rare and supreme wonderful scripture, the ultimate teaching of the one vehicle. Again, he's referring back to the Lotus Sutra in that second chapter, where that is what the Buddha is talking about, is the one Buddha vehicle, the vehicle which allows us all to ultimately become Buddhas through the beneficence of the Buddhas. And he calls them the golden words which enable one to quickly attain the complete and all-merging merits. The true words praised by Buddhas of the 10 quarters, all the Buddhas, and this is according to one of Dharmakara's other vows, I believe, is that all the Buddhas in the universe zero in and praise Amida Buddha, because that 18th vow that he made really gives the essence of what's needed to provide a focal point for humans to entrust, to have faith, to rely upon other power. And the true teaching conforming to the time and capabilities of sentient beings. This we should know. Again, referring to our limited capabilities and encouraging us to know this teaching, to reflect upon it, to hear the Buddha's call. Why? Because otherwise, how do we transcend ego? How do we go beyond this sea of suffering? Okay, at this point, I'm just simply going to recite without interruption those 3 verses from chapter 1 of the Kyo Gyo Shin Sho, the chapter referring to true teaching. As I reverently contemplate on the true teaching of Pure Land Buddhism, there are in it 2 kinds of merit transference. One is the phase of going, and the other the phase of returning. With regard to the merit transference in the phase of going, there are the true teaching, practice, faith, and enlightenment. Now, if I am to reveal the true teaching, it is the larger sutra on the Buddha of infinite life. The outline of this sutra is as follows. Amida Buddha raised the unsurpassed vow and opened wide the Dharma store. And, pitying ordinary inferior men, he selected the treasure of virtues and bestowed it upon them. And Sakyamuni Buddha appeared in this world and showed the teachings of the way, desiring particularly to save multitudes by endowing them with the true benefit. For this reason, expounding the Tathagata's original vow is the import of the sutra, and the Buddha's name is the essence of the sutra. The larger sutra reveals the true teaching. Indeed, this is the true exposition for which the Tathagata appeared in this world, the rare and supreme, wonderful scripture, the ultimate teaching of the one vehicle, the golden words which enable one to quickly attain the complete and all-merging merits, the true words praised by Buddhas of the 10 quarters, and the true teaching conforming to the time and capabilities of sentient beings. This we should know.